Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome on into the swear word. I'm your host, Brandon Swear, and hey, this is a podcast for the chili community by the chili community. Regardless of your spice tolerance, this is the place for you. Up tonight, we have an amazing episode, locked and loaded. We have 3 products on Hot or Not, an amazing guest locked and loaded, and a very fun shark trivia game. Episode 159 starts now. What's going on? Welcome on in, Swear Nation. So glad to have everyone here, whether you're tuning in on YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, and or Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much for being here and continuing to make this podcast what it is. Now, if you just recently found the podcast, thank you so much for being here. Glad to have you. If you're one of those OGs rocking since day one, thank y'all so much. Now, up tonight, we have 3 different sauces on deck. These are all from the Spicy Shark. So looking forward to jumping on into those, as well as we have Gabe here as our guest tonight of the Spicy Shark that we're going to be diving on into and really getting a better understanding of how the Spicy Shark got started, the inspiration for these sauces, as well as having a very fun game that is going on, and you're going to want to be a part of that. And always, as always, you can play in the comments and answer the questions to the game and play along. So let's go ahead and jump on over to Hot or Not. Welcome on into Hot or Not. If this is your first time checking out the podcast or checking out Hot or Not, I do things a little bit different here. I don't do a 1 out of 10 scale. I do a 1 out of 5. That's based off of 5 different categories. Those categories are heat, aroma, flavor, versatility, burn. And of course, I like to not read the ingredients ahead of time. I like to let my taste buds do the exploration and really kind of figure out what I'm able to pick up. But this is your place to find everything to do with the world of hot. So we're going to be discussing and reviewing all kinds of products. But up tonight, we have 3 different sauces from the Spicy Shark. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and jump on into the very first sauce. Well, you may have seen it on Hot Ones before. This is the Mako Snake. This does have a perforation on the cellophane. And in the right light, it looks a little bit light brown, but and it also has kind of a darker tone to it. It's definitely a thicker sauce. Nice heaping tablespoon. Beautiful aroma. Almost like a very spice driven in that sense. Very kind of much like a curry vibe and feel coming from this one here. Fresh smelling, but also very spice forward. Not so much in the sense of picking up that capsaicin spice, but much more of a spice blend. Cheers. Oh man, smooth. Don't want to let any of that go to waste. Oh my gosh. Savory, bright. You're picking up what tastes like maybe a little bit of ginger, a little bit of cinnamon, like overall spice combination to this, giving it nice depth. Then you're getting that initial soft, very inviting tone, almost maybe like I don't know, it's smooth. It reminds me of like coconut milk or coconut butter or something like that. It's that nice, smooth initial palate, bringing all that spice forward. You're getting this giant flavor bomb right off the bat. And then now, as I'm talking, I can feel a stinging sensation in the mouth, all the way around the lips, the gums, the tongue, and the back of the throat is now starting to turn up the heat. Absolutely phenomenal. I love the overall heat transition in this. If you're just starting out, this is not going to be one you want to just jump on into. There's other Spicy Shark hot sauces that you can definitely check out that are going to be geared towards those that are just starting out. If you're working on your own personal best, this one here is going to be an absolute pleasure. It's going to pack a lot of flavor and a ton of heat. It's now starting to really start to fade away from the mouth per se. I still feel the stinging, so it makes me think there might be some habanero in this, but it does have a slower build in the back of the throat. Maybe there's ghost pepper. Maybe there's some other kind of Superhot that has a slower duration build. But picking that up now. Front of the lips, kind of still stinging. But all in all, the rest of the mouth is pretty well subsided in that sense. And it's just really parked on the back of the throat. Protein and veggies, protein and rice. That's going to be my main, thought to go to with this. This would be phenomenal in burgers too. Well, let's go ahead and read these ingredients. Coconut milk, apple cider vinegar, water, mango, ghost pepper, bell pepper, habanero, onion, Carolina Reaper, sugar, garlic, banana, sweet potatoes, pineapple, maple syrup, sesame oil, sunflower oil, tamarind, cumin, ginger, cinnamon, coriander, onion powder, garlic powder, feta, clove, caraway, cardamom, star anise, and then salt. Goes great with chicken, lamb, burgers, rice dishes, potato dishes, curry dishes, roasted vegetables, tempeh, and absolutely anything that is in need of flavor and heat. Heat coming in at a 3.9, aroma of 4.2, flavor of 4.3, versatility of a 4, burn of a 4.28 for a total swear word rating of 4.14. There we go. Another amazing sauce. That one is from The Spicy Shark. Let's go ahead and check out the next sauce. The Black Tip Widow, part of the 6-fin series. For those that are keeping track, yes, there is a perforation on the cellophane. It is kind of like a light brown on this one. Great overall aroma. Cheers. Wow. Right off the bat, what tastes like maybe some galangal or some lemongrass or something. There's that kind of like that normal like Asian-esque note to this. So like a little bit, maybe like a curry, maybe like an Asian dish. I can't really pinpoint. There is initial a sweet note that kind of comes through. And from that, then it kind of goes into this bright herbaceous body to it with a nice savory back end. Now, from an initial heat standpoint, you're getting the mouth pretty good. You're really able to really take in the flavor and appreciate the sauce for what it has. It's, again, a nice stinging to the overall mouth, which makes me think there might be some habanero in this sauce, but there's also a quick hit. So there's got to be, some kind of other ingredient in there that allows for a faster hit. So it's probably not a Superhot. It's probably going to be, something like, I don't know, with the Asian taste of like the galangal or lemongrass or whatever that is in there. It makes me think maybe it's some kind of an Asian chili that's kind of in here. So we're definitely interested in seeing what's going on with that. But now I can feel it really start to ramp up in the back of the throat, and it's turning up the dials there. The front of the mouth is starting to fade away. Absolutely love what's going on here. This sauce right here, we could go great with like a protein veggie. We could go great with a burger. This would go great with a sandwich, pizza, you name it. This thing can go great on it. So ingredients are for the Black Tip Widow: bell pepper, coconut milk, water, ghost pepper, Carolina Reaper, onion, vinegar, green curry paste, and then habanero, brown sugar, lime juice, garlic, bird's eye pepper, cilantro, lemongrass, sweet basil, coriander, and then coconut cream, sunflower oil, cumin, ginger, kefir lime leaves, and cardamom. Goes great with chicken, curry, tempura, and Thai noodles, stir fry, shrimp, mussels, roasted vegetables, fried tofu, fried rice, and anything that is in need of flavor and heat. Once again, knocked it out of the park. This 6-fin series is definitely one that you don't want to skip out on. So if you're just starting out, probably not the one that's best suited for you. There's definitely some other Spicy Shark hot sauces out there that you can really get into and enjoy. Now, if you're working on your own personal best, this 6-fin series is definitely going to be right up your alley. This one's going to bring in a lot of flavor. You heard what it pairs well with from what they state, as well as, if you're looking for a great, spicy, flavor-packed, Asian-inspired sauce, this is it. Heat coming in at 3.8, aroma of 4.15, flavor of 4.3, versatility of a 4, burn of a 4.15 for a total swear word rating of 4.08. There we go. Another amazing sauce. Once again, The Spicy Shark. Let's check out that next sauce. And this one here is the Hamagata. If you can't tell, that is a hammerhead shark collab into a alligator. I have enjoyed every single sauce from the 6-fin series. Yes, this does have a perforation on the cellophane. The color on this is a darker, deeper brown. Oh, wow. almost like a Cajun vibe to the overall aroma. Very spice forward. With this one, you're able to pick up more of the pepper notes as well. Very full, savory body on the aroma, much more spice driven. So I would say, yeah, nice medium consistency. Cheers. Oh, wow. Absolutely amazing. This one has much more of like a molasses or like a heavier feel to that overall like savory body. That's really bringing that in and all together. You're getting that bright spice forward nature, savory note. And wow, there it goes. I can start to feel it now. Really latch in to the back of the throat, and it's turning up the dials there. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful sauce here. Now, you're definitely picking up the flavor of the peppers in this here a bit more. So you're definitely getting that nice super hot taste, but you're also still getting that great overall savory body to this sauce. As far as those that are just starting out, not the sauce for you. Probably none of the 6-fin series should be where you should start. I would recommend checking out some other great sauces from the Spicy Shark if you're just starting out. Working on your own personal best, you're definitely going to love the 6-fin series. This one here, I would say, is a high heat sauce as well. This one probably would be the hottest out of the 6-fin series that I have, if I had to take a guess between those. I would say it's probably that, maybe the Mako Snake, and then from the Mako Snake, maybe the Black Tip Widow. Somewhere in that would be the kind of the breakdown from what I've experienced. Ingredients are scorpion peppers, vinegar, onion, roasted red pepper, molasses, garlic, celery, and then habanero, pineapple juice, banana, tomato, almond flour, sunflower oil, Carolina Reaper, 7-pot Primo, garlic powder, onion powder, chocolate chili powder. So that's cocoa nibs, chili, juniper berries, allspice, cinnamon, oregano, maple sugar, paprika, salt, coffee puree, oregano, and thyme. That's interesting. So that coffee puree and that molasses are that depth of that kind of rich, dark, savory notes that I was really picking up, but I wasn't 100% certain on. Glad I was able to pinpoint the molasses. Everything in this sauce plays so beautifully, and absolute pleasure. So definitely check out this sauce here. So this one says it goes great with shrimp, crawfish, gumbo, jambalaya, po' boys, dirty rice, meat, poultry, tacos, tempeh, and anything that is in need of flavor and heat. Going great on sandwiches, burgers. This could even go if you were looking for a way to really add a kick to your overall salads. Splash a little of this into the salad dressing, stir this on up. You're going to have a great time. Heat coming in at 3.95, aroma of 4.2, flavor of 4.3, versatility of a 4, burn of a 4.3 for a total swearwood rating of 4.15. There we go. Another amazing sauce from the Spicy Shark. If you enjoyed the sauces that were featured here on Hot or Not tonight, I'll have the direct links down below for those, and a link to the 6-fin bundle that is down below as well, that has all 3 sauces in one, as well as an individual breakout for each one of those, and a link to the main site so you can check out the full lineup of amazing products from the Spicy Shark. But let's do this. Let's go ahead and jump on over to tonight's discussion. Hey, Gabe, how's it going?
It is going great. Cheers from New Hampshire.
Well, glad to have you here. I've heard amazing things about what you have going on from many different levels. But of course, first and foremost, always hear about how amazing your hot sauces are and the journey that they get taken on as people are enjoying them. So glad to have you here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So the one question I always like to lead off with, which is, what got you into the world of hot? And then what was that moment that you decided, I'm going to start making my own spicy products?
Great question. I'll answer it in 2 ways. So first is I grew up in a really ethnic part of northern New Jersey, and my mom was super into very spicy things, and she had me eating really spicy food as a young kid. And some of my closest friends in grade school and high school were Asian and Indian. So I was having, hot curries at their house before I was 10 years old. Our favorite fast food joint in New York City was called Curry in a Hurry. So I was always eating really hot things. Then as we got into high school and college, I was the guy who would do all the wing eating contests, the hot wing contests, and I was the friend who someone would buy the hot sauce for as the present. And then I started getting into making hot sauces, and a lot of that was with my sister, who is also very inclined culinarily, if that's a word, has a great culinary skill. And she's married to a Jamaican guy who started growing hot peppers in his garden in New Jersey. He introduced me to the Scotch bonnet. I mean, this is years and years and years ago. So my sister and I had a couple family recipes, and we really liked them. We had fun with it, and I'd give it to people, and a lot of people were like, "Wow, this is." Really great. We love this, yada, yada. And, that was always in the back of my head. So I started coming up with more recipes, and then had my daughter. I had been in the beer business. I was actually in the beer business for 17 years. And, she was only 1 year old. I'm still traveling all over the place. I had the idea of the company in the back of my head. And in 2018, I decided, you know what? Well, actually, in 2017, I decided, I'm going to do this, but I can't do this being a region sales manager for a beer company. So decided to go for it in 18, and I guess the rest is history now.
Very nice. Now, yeah, the whole journey. So first and foremost, the parallel between the beer industry as a whole and the way that hot sauce is, overall, just the process in which like cleaning and preparation, outlook, and everything is so. It works so nicely in tandem, those two. So it's always fun and interesting to hear all those that kind of had that similar experience, right? Coming from the beer side of the world. But yeah,
And
to be
not only from my side, everything you said, I agree with 100%. But what's funny is not even just from my side as a maker, or from someone who's now selling hot sauce through a distribution channel versus where I used to sell beer through a distribution channel. So there's some similarities there, of course. But also, the craft beer drinker is actually a pretty big craft hot sauce consumer. And when I first started, the first thing I did was, well, I'm going to go to all the people I knew that had stores that I sold beer to, and kind of, in my mind, call in a favor, like, hey, will you put me in? Not thinking it would do too much, but hey, I got to start selling somewhere. And lo and behold, some of my best accounts were these like craft beer accounts. And I was like, oh, wow, there's this real crossover with the drinker and the, specialty food and specialty beer. And
Mhm.
then sure enough, some of the beer distributors took notice of it that I used to know, and were like, hey, Gabe, do you want to, we'll distribute you. We have a non-alc section in our portfolio. And now I have got, I have food distributors, of course, but I have a couple beer distributors that actually do really well with it and have it as a non-alc product that they sell to the beer stores.
Wow. No, that's awesome to hear. I mean, it makes perfect sense because ultimately you have those that are looking for a little bit something different, something to break the traditional mold, if you will. And that's kind of what would make sense as to why they would also be inclined to be more curious about hot sauce or maybe already enjoying hot sauces in general. So that's a nice crossover there. From even the consumer standpoint, I didn't even think about really. I mean, I guess I kind of did, but I didn't make any kind of direct correlations or thoughts to how those markets would be so similar. But yeah, I mean, I imagine it's also got to be a lot of the um, same avenue, same vein in the sense of like whenever you are getting ready to put on an event, it's going to be a lot of those same people. I mean, you can easily have the crossover from the beer industry to kind of funnel into a pepper festival, hot sauce festival, et cetera, because of kind of that same. It's that same attention, that thrill seeker, that attention to detail, all these like different avenues funneling into one massive market, if you will.
Yeah, and just this past Saturday, we were a vendor at the New Hampshire Brew Fest. We've been a vendor at that since 2019, and kind of in the same vein of learning in the stores, I learned that craft beer festivals are a place where people love to experiment and try hot sauces. And after a couple beverages, they'll have hotter ones than maybe they would have before. But it definitely, that crossover continues there.
Absolutely. Do you think that this is just simply out of my own curiosity here because I do love finding spicy beers, but do you think that the spicy beer market will eventually start to gain some more traction? Because it seems like right now you'll have this nice little bust for maybe 1 or 2 years of this high amount of spicy drinks come out, and then all of a sudden it's like it fades away for 2 or 3 years, and then it slowly teeters back in. And I feel like right now we're teetering back in to kind of more.
Yeah, I see it being kind of like in that little wave thing. I don't see it being something that really becomes a big thing, only because they've always been there. The spicy tequilas have always been there. The spicy beers, like there's a local brewery a couple miles down the road from where I live that's made one. And what's funny is I love heat and everything. The reason I made a hot maple syrup is because I already flavored my morning coffee with maple syrup. That's how I sweetened it. And I was like, my morning coffee is the only thing that I have all day for food or drink that isn't spicy. And I need that to be spicy. So I made a hot maple syrup. So, like, literally everything I put in my mouth is spicy throughout the day. And for whatever reason, I never liked spicy beers. So I don't know. I can't speak for everybody else, but I have seen it kind of come in and come out. And despite, craft hot sauce and spicy food has been on this dramatic increase, like hot sauce growth is bigger than all other condiment growth combined, mayo, ketchup, mustard, and that's not slowing down. That trajectory is still steep. And yet, despite that, the spicy drinks is kind of like up and down. So, do I think it's going to be some big thing? Probably not, but I'm sure, like if a new brewery that's well known gives something a try, people will try it. And yeah, but I don't predict that. But I've been out of the beer business a long time, so maybe I'm wrong.
Fair enough. Fair enough. It's always one of those things, like I had mentioned before. It's just like if I see one passing by, I'll read it. If it even remotely piques my interest, I'll at least grab one or two and just try to give it a good shot, or grab a 6-pack and split it with somebody else to get what their thoughts are on it. But I think it's an untapped market that could exist, but it's definitely like you're saying. It's something similar to how coffee is with adding spice. It's like it's a very finicky line because depending on how you make your coffee, of course, this could really change. But for someone like me who just takes just a black coffee, you add certain levels of spice to that, you might get it too bitter, or it might just really kind of start to lose that overall coffee body that you're looking for. So yeah, I can see where the brewing aspect plus maybe even like kind of just correlating it to how the coffee aspect I know reacts. There's probably a level of sophistication that's needed to not disrupt the end product in any kind of like a overly bitter or overly harsh way. So
And it's probably seasonal a little bit too. Like I notice it more in the fall. It'll pick up. I'm in a couple coffee shops that'll do, use the spicy, our hot maple syrup or our hot honey, and they'll put it in a latte or a tea drink. And it's typically like around this, up here in New Hampshire, the temps are dropping, and it's around this time of year that it'll get a little burst, and maybe they'll put that drink back on the menu. But yeah, it's rarely a mainstay.
yeah, yeah, okay. Well, one thing obviously we've kind of talked about briefly, but really the inspiration aspect behind the products that you make. First of all, I guess what was the very first product that you launched, and then second of all, I guess kind of what has been your overall journey path on innovation.
Well, I went kind of bananas and I launched with 9 sauces, which looking back, it's like, why did I do that? And how did I do that? But, coming from the beer business and, how, it's all about shelf space and being able to see the brand. And I came from this like kind of like marketing and retail perspective and saying, oh, I managed a portfolio of over 100 products. So, what's 9? And it was insane and ridiculous. But I'd been working on it for a year. I already had recipes that I had been making for a while that we had, so it wasn't that many new ones to what we were doing. But to go from amateur to pro in a year, I quite frankly don't know how. It was just probably a couple miracles along the way, and some help from above. But yeah, we launched with 9. The first ever was our original hot sauce, which is a habanero hot sauce, which actually started as a Scotch bonnet hot sauce. Because again, my brother-in-law, who I was telling you about, who's a Jamaican man, was growing Scotch bonnets in his garden in New Jersey, and so that's the pepper that we use to make that sauce. But then, for both price reasons and availability, the habanero made more sense. And I don't know how well you know the details of peppers, but habanero and Scotch bonnet are
Yep.
very similar in genus. The Scotch bonnet's slightly sweeter, slightly hotter, but when you have it as an ingredient in the sauce, it's not that dramatically different. So that became a habanero sauce, but otherwise the recipe was the same. So that was the first, which is now just called our original, and then 8 others. And I was all geared from the very start to be ready for the Fiery Food Show 2019. I had to kind of like my mind set on that. Like, I want to go big. I want to launch the company in Albuquerque, New Mexico, at the biggest, fiery food hot sauce event in the United States. And it was all, for 1 year, it was with that goal set to launch there. And what's crazy is we made it like to the day. We were ready to ship our pallet 5 days before the Fiery Food Show setup day, and it took exactly 5 days to get from New Hampshire to Albuquerque. So I mean, we hit it, but literally to the day, 365 days in advance. So it's pretty crazy. So we launched with 9. I was always a big fan of sweet heat. I love that flavor complexity. I love heat with sweet. So that became early on. Some of the first things I did was our 2 hot maple syrups and our hot honey. And I thought maybe that would be more of a direction that we went, but not so much. After that initial 9, my next sauce that I was going to do is I was thinking of starting a seasonal program. And so my first, quote unquote seasonal was going to be this summer seasonal, and it's what now is the Caribbean Reef Shark, which is a really nice, speaking of Scotch bonnets, this one is a Scotch bonnet hot sauce with coconut milk, pineapple, jerk spices, really lush and tropical. But when I launched it, it became my number 2 seller within like the first 6 months. So I was like, well, that's not going to be seasonal. So that's going to be year round. And then after that, I kind of have gone in the direction of making things hotter. So when I, was launching the company, I said, what's my number one goal? Well, my number one goal is to stay in business. If you really break it down to, I've got a million goals, but number one, let's not go out of business. So I definitely made the portfolio from a heat perspective to be kind of for the general public. Myself, I'm a chili head. I love things really hot, but if I was just making things for me, I probably wouldn't be as successful. But, one day I was having my Megalodon, which at the time was my hottest. I've got this 5-fin heat scale. We go from mild to wicked hot. And I was having the Megalodon on a burger, which is it's my favorite burger sauce is the Meg. And I was like, the Meg is not hot enough for me. I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is my company, and my hottest sauce isn't hot enough for me. But as someone who makes hot sauces, the most difficult thing is to make something really hot and really flavorful. And at the time, that the Megalodon was as hot as I could make something, where I felt really comfortable from a culinary perspective that all of the unique, intricate, and layered flavors were coming through in the right order. So, but I was like, you know what? I can't. My hottest sauce has to be hot enough for me. So I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, there's 2 kind of marketing issues before I even start with coming up with a recipe. Number one, I've got a 5-fin heat scale, and I already have a 5, the Megalodon. What am I going to do? Well, the 6-fin series. So I'm going to add a 6th bigger fin with a lot of fire coming out of it. And then number
Nice.
2, the Megalodon is the largest shark to ever exist. What's larger than a Megalodon? Well, mythical creatures that come into my head in the middle of the night. So the first one, the hammergator, half hammerhead shark, half alligator, and no R's because we don't pronounce our R's up here in New England. So the hammergator, but so yeah, it's kind of like a sci-fi shark movie zone in a way. And so that recipe started with I love New Orleans and Cajun cooking, and so I started with a vegan roux, Cajun spices, deep smoked onions, but it comes with the heat: seven pot primo, Carolina Reaper, Scorpion, habanero, and I was so proud because that one, the year I launched that one. Best tasting Superhot in the country at the Scovies at the Fiery Food Show. So very long-winded answer. So I've been going hot since for new innovation. So the Hamagator was the first of the six fin series. Then the Mako snake, which actually got on the show Hot Ones. So we're super proud of that. And then most recently, the one I just launched, a Thai-inspired green curry sauce, the Black Tip Widow. So recently, I've been going in the direction of heat, and I've kind of seen the industry going in that direction too. So they still don't sell as well as my, more medium style ones, but there's a good little following to them.
Yeah, and something that you said that resonated perfectly with me as well is the idea of, you obviously got to build that base that applies to, let's call it 90% of the market that's out there, because the other 10%, sure, they're going to be like you and me. They're going to be wanting to constantly push themselves, find things that broach that level of comfort and discomfort and kind of just teeter that line. And so ultimately, the same folks that want the more palatable, everyday, safe sauces are also going to be typically the ones that are going to be using it at a less frequent rate than, say, your chili heads that are going to be lathering it up on everything. So it makes
100%.
sense to kind of start out there, but then really lean into your own love and your passion, and trying to find something that's going to light you up, and really making sure that, yes, it does check all those boxes, because that's what's going to continue to keep those chili heads that are actively, buying on a consistent basis, coming back in for more. So definitely see that being greatly beneficial. And obviously, the journey along the way has been, it sounds like, a very fun one. And obviously, as with any business, there's those highs, there's those lows. But it sounds like being able to really plug in and focus on the product has allowed you to not worry about, when things are, going sideways, or just not as expected.
Yeah, this was as to that point. It's kind of funny. We've had such a nice trajectory since we started in 18, and this is actually our first down year. So, never had a down year before. So that's been interesting to deal with. And it's mostly from Q1. Like Q1 was a really rough quarter. I've kind of found that a lot of people were in that shape. So it's been a nice bounce back. But yeah, you really just have to keep your head down, find new accounts, come up with new, not just new products, but new packages, and really just still, you can't rest on your laurels. Like we're a tiny company. I know we're well known in craft hot sauce, but we are tiny. And you still have to do a lot of events to get your name out there, and you still have to keep trying to fight in to get into new stores and be discovered that way. And hopefully find people who really love it and buy it consistently. But there's no time to take a month off. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And maybe maybe it plays into the spicy shark name here, but not having any down months, except for now starting to see some. It's just that constant shark just swimming along. It's got to keep moving, or otherwise it's not going to turn out so well. So
Yeah, there's a couple of species of sharks that can stay on the ocean floor just with their gills moving and not moving, but we are not that species. So we're definitely, we'll say we're a mako.
Okay.
Very fast, twitchy, all over the place.
Okay. Okay. I like it. Well, this is also a great time for anyone that might not be familiar. Why the name Spicy Shark? This is a great chance for them to really get a good insight on that. So, how did you wind up with Spicy Shark?
Well, what I say is, outside of my family, the two things I love the most are hot sauce and sharks. So it worked out pretty well that I was able to combine them into my company. So um, the long and short of it is, I went from just a massive, crazy Jaws fanatic. Like I was captured by the movie Jaws when I was 8 years old. Love was obsessed with the movie. Almost went to University of Miami to become a marine biologist. Didn't end up going that route, but Jaws was always just this huge part of my life, and I was really into sharks as a kid and in college and stuff like that. But kind of everything that changed for me was I went to in 2012, I went to Martha's Vineyard or Amity Island for Jaws Fest, naturally. Who wouldn't be at that? And I went there just as a Jaws fanatic. But what was a big turning point for me is I got to meet Wendy Benchley, who's the wife of the late Peter Benchley. I was actually hanging out with her over Labor Day weekend this year. She's awesome. But she gave me about half an hour of her time in 2012, and told me all about basically the plight of sharks. Over 100 million are being killed every year. A lot of it is from the shark fin trade, from bycatch, from shark killing tournaments, things that I had no idea about. And she had started this nonprofit, Shark Saver, so I immediately joined that. I eventually took up scuba diving, started going diving with sharks, and that just became a big part of my personal life and what I did. So when it was time to start my hot sauce company, it just kind of came to me in big bright lights. The spicy shark, of course, it was always meant to be. So now we do a lot of work in shark conservation. We sponsor events from nonprofits that raise money for what they're trying to do to help in conservation. We're very active on our own. Like we helped end the last two shark killing tournaments in New England, one in Block Island, Rhode Island, and one in Newburyport, Massachusetts. So there's still a lot on the East Coast, and we try to do what we can to help with it because they're just so destructive and no one's eating them. It's just killing them for fun. And they're already, most of them at this point are highly endangered. So it's a big part of what we do. So we work with and donate to a lot of nonprofits in the shark conservation world. We always have a big presence at SharkCon, which is down in Tampa every year, a big shark conservation event. And so we love all things sharks. And coincidentally, my daughter was 8 at the time, but I got her on her first snorkel trip in Key Largo back in August. And on our first snorkel together, we got to be with the nurse shark. So that was pretty cool. So she got to see that, and she did very well with it. She wasn't scared. It was great.
Very nice. Yeah, I guess I technically have been in a pool where there has been sharks there for the sake of like getting to understand, see them up close, right? Take away that fear aspect. But I just outside of like a controlled environment like that, I don't know how I would react in front of like just a shark in the wild. I mean, there's so much unknowns about that. We are there in their playground, if you will, at that point. We're the guest, and so it's an interesting thing to navigate. I just respect them and I try to stay out of their way. That's my main thing. I
If
feel
you're
like
gonna
that's the
do it,
best.
you have to know what you're doing, and you have to be with someone who's a lead. Like, there is definitely reasons to be intimidated, but at the same time, if you do things the right way, rarely would anything bad happen. 2 years ago, my last kind of official shark dive was with Florida Shark Diving off of Jupiter, Florida. And we went out, we didn't know what we would see that day. And we were with 3 bull sharks, and we are out, miles into the Atlantic. It was, I don't even know how deep the water was, but 80 feet of visibility. And, our lead diver, this great lady D, she's hand feeding the bull sharks. I'm not doing that. I'm there close by, but I've got a young daughter and a family. They were actually on the boat above watching. So they're like, I hope we don't see our Papa end this way. But everything was great. There were no problems whatsoever. And again, if you know what you're supposed to do and you don't do foolish things, they know very quickly that you are not their prey. If they thought humans were prey, there would be 100 shark attacks every day,
Yeah,
and there's not.
yeah,
But there's absolutely reason to be intimidated. And if you're foolish and don't know what you're doing or intentionally doing the wrong things, bad things can happen for sure. They're an apex predator, and that's their territory and not ours. And we are absolutely guests.
yep, absolutely. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, as far as you have an event that you put on, but as far as what you are getting out there in the scene, are you mostly doing the larger circuit venues? Or are you also still doing some of the farmer markets? Where is your majority of your focus, I guess, of your business kind of going towards these days?
I guess it's a pretty big mix of everything. On the bigger end of things, at this point, we only fly to two events. We fly out to Albuquerque for the Fiery Food Show, and we fly out to Tampa, as Ed mentioned earlier, SharkCon. Those are just two great events for us, and but that's it. Because again, kind of take a step back and put the how much fun it is and how great a time it is aside from that. There's paying for flights, paying for rental car, paying to ship your pallet, paying for a hotel. But in a best case scenario, when you're traveling like that, it's kind of break even, make a couple bucks, and it's more about exposure and branding and getting people to know your products and get to know you. So those are the two big ones that I'll fly to. Other than that, we mostly do bigger events in the Northeast. Like we'll drive to the New York City Hot Sauce Expo. Steve Seabury puts that on. He's awesome. One of the first guys I got to meet in the business. And then we'll do, other big events that are more local, like the Hampton Beach Seafood Festival. But yeah, we still do. When we first started, I mean, I was doing every farmer's market that would let me in. I'm doing tastings at any account that would bring us in. But we still do our first farmers market that we're ever part of, which is the Sunday market in Kittery, Maine. So we still do that one. That's a seasonal market. So yeah, we have kind of like our home base, which that's only about 10 minutes from where we are. Technically, it's in Maine and we're in New Hampshire, but literally you're staring across the river at it. So we do as local and small as that to big huge events that we fly to, but most of what we do is in a kind of a 2 hour circumference of where we are, just for financial reasons.
Yeah, and I asked that too because ultimately, you'll hear very often it's like sauce companies that are starting out. Their initial question is like, how long am I gonna be on the local scene grind? And it's like, it's that old adage as like just human nature to always want to look at the next thing instead of appreciating what you have in the now. And so it be able to ask that question kind of help reframe like, hey, it's not always just completely that things are gone. It's trying to find out what works best for you and your market in your given situation. So no, I
Yeah.
appreciate that. And so from there, we've really kind of talked about your initial creation of the 9 different sauces, the journey that you've gone throughout that, but throughout the times of really leaning into the creation and the initial foundation aspect, did you have, I know you mentioned Steve Seabury a second ago, but did you have like mentors or anyone that really had helped lean in there and kind of get you on track or through some kind of uh, potential headaches?
I never had, a mentor of sorts, but I'll say that just the industry in general is so supportive, and that was a similarity to the beer business. There's always going to be some crabs on the beach, but for the most part, a very supportive industry. And a guy that really impressed me from day one, like the Fiery Food Show when we got there in 2019, I had done two events in my entire life with the company. The week before, I did my first ever tasting at the City Beverage in Seabrook, New Hampshire, and my first ever promo tasting at a restaurant that a buddy of mine, Wally's on Hampton Beach, brought me in because he just was, we were friends. So that was my first kind of showcase. And the nicest guy, and he's become a good friend over the years, is Ed Curry of Pucker Butt. And he immediately came over, introduced himself to me. I'm like, oh my God, this is like the biggest hot sauce celebrity there is. Came right on over, talked to me within 6 months, brought in the sauces to his retail store in Fort Mill, South Carolina. And to this day, he's one of my biggest customers. And he's always been someone to answer questions and be helpful and be supportive. And he's been awesome. Everyone knows Vic, who's got the biggest hot sauce collection that there is and works for Hot Shots. He was great to know early on. So I can't say I had an official mentor, but I learned from the first 4 days in the hot sauce industry out there. I had like 20 people's numbers, and everyone's like, call me for anything and happy to help. And it was just so cool. Are you competing against each other? To some extent, yes, but it really is a family vibe with everyone kind of like in it together, and we all want to see each other succeed. So that's been a really cool thing.
Yeah, and that's something that advocate a lot to the idea of just the brotherhood that's formed throughout this, the whole journey of whether you're just growing in your backyard and you're having a great time, people will jump in and try to give advice on how to better your situation, better your grow, help revitalize your soil, etc., all the way to as you're saying, it ultimately coming down to these events, yes, there is that level of competition, but the cool thing is really being able to see everyone pull together in that aspect. I guess since you're familiar as well with the beer side of things, did you really see that often, like between different breweries, or was that much more of a kind of a rivalistic type of scenario?
You developed relationships and friendships on the beer side, but it was much more, you're looking out for your company, and it was more cutthroat, and it's just not that way as much. But also, it's in general just to craft hot sauce is so new getting into stores that when you see it, you're like excited to see it for that person because it's almost kind of a rare thing. Like every now and then you come across a specialty hot sauce shop, but your local grocery store rarely has something past Tabasco, Cholula, Texas Pete's, Sriracha. So yeah, no, it was definitely more cutthroat on the beer side of things.
Okay. All right. That makes more sense then. Yeah, I was always curious as far as like the um just how is it a rare anomaly, like the overall brotherhood, the willingness to chip in and help each other, and as you're saying, yes, true, there's always going to be that crab on the beach, right? It's ultimately going to be those people exist in every facet of life, unfortunately. Um but they're just disruptors for a reason, and you just gotta ignore it essentially. But yeah, the innovation and the thought process through your sauces, it's really cool to be able to see and hear how much it's not just a phoned in type of thing. You're actually caring to walk through there, make sure everything is nice and balanced. It meets the criteria that you're looking for. All these things are obviously stuff that you would expect to see when someone is launching a hot sauce or launching a spicy product in general. But that's not always the case. A lot of times it'll just be quickly dialed in or slapped together, and it's not. You can tell and taste the difference between those types, right?
Oh
So
yeah, no, it took me like my last sauce, the Black Tip Widow, because Thai curries is not my natural way of cooking, and it took me 14 months to get that sauce down. I went to 30 different Thai restaurants to really kind of hone in on what were the flavor character, the differences between all these different green curries. What did I like best? What did I want to bring out of it? And I think the final version might have been my 26th recipe. Like so no, it's a labor of love. I mean, I don't think ever since the initial launch, it's basically we haven't launched a new product in any less than 2 years from start to finish, from idea to it's if you're going to do it the way we do it anyway.
yeah.
So it's yeah, but labor of love for sure.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. Have you found any kind of like ingredients that just don't seem to work well for you that you've been trying to incorporate in?
Not so much work well as far as just learning about the ingredient. Like one really challenging ingredient that we have in three of our sauces is coconut milk. We have that in our Caribbean hot sauce, which that was the one that was going to be a seasonal. We have it in the Mako Snake, the six fin that got on Hot Ones, and we have it in the Black Tip Widow. And it's just a tough one because any as soon as it's cold, as soon as you put that in the refrigerator, if you have too high of a fat content, it's going to completely solidify where you can't get it out of the bottle.
Mhm.
So getting the amount that you want of coconut milk without it congealing basically when it's cold, but to still bring out the flavors you want is challenging. But I've yet to find an ingredient that we can't work with or don't want to work with. I mean, there's certain peppers that are more difficult because they're smaller and the skins and stuff like that. But we do not discriminate. Bring on all and any peppers and ingredients, and we'll find a home.
Nice. I like it because that right there helps once again drive home and show that ultimately your dedication, your focus means that you will end up, finding the correct pairing for it. Because just about, I mean, I can think of possibly a few that I don't know if I've ever seen in sauces, but I also don't think they would go great in sauces. But ultimately just the overall journey through that is cool to hear because a lot of times I've seen companies struggle that get dead set locked on the idea of like I only want this pepper. This is the only pepper that I want in the thing in my sauce line, or that I only want sweet sauces, and it's like cool, get it, and you're going to be able to cater to the market in that way, but there's got to be some kind of differentiating factors here. There's got to be some creativity shown and showcased in order to, I've at least from what I've seen and what I've heard, to be able to have that, evergreen aspect to what you have going on. If it's always just one same note, one same style, it tends to become problematic in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, we have anything from a poblano up to a Carolina Reaper. We probably use more habanero than anything else because I rarely have a sauce that only has one pepper.
Hmm.
Like probably the original hot sauce, the habanero hot sauce, and our sweet heat are the only ones that just use one pepper, which is habanero, and the rest are always gonna have a mix because I just love the flavor of habanero. So sometimes that'll go into one of my super hots more, not for a heat perspective, but purely for the flavor. But to
Hmm.
that point, out of any of the compliments we get, one of my favorite ones is none of your sauces taste anything like the other one. Like that's probably one of my favorite compliments because it's not like, all right, we've got this base recipe and here's the original with mango and here's the original with papaya. And nothing against that, but it's just not what we do. Like each sauce is its own concept and starts from that versus, oh, how can we do a version of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, something that you've mentioned a few times, and obviously everyone is, I'm sure, dying to know, which is the hot ones aspect. Have you had someone that really stood out that you were able to, either burn with your wings or just simply seeing them enjoy the wing with your sauce on it that really kind of stood out more than another?
Oh well, I have to say the Jennifer Lawrence episode was definitely my favorite that season. So I think that might be one of their top 10 most viewed period. So it was super cool that we were on it. We were sauce number 6, but I love that one. Even though we weren't the sauce that made her the one that came with all the memes of well, what do you mean? What do you mean? I think the bomb did that to her, but she was like super confident and doing great through the first 5, and then we were the first one at number 6 where she went, it knocked her off her game a little bit. So that was cool. Obviously, she was. I think she was. You could say she was the biggest celebrity of that season, and then for us to be the sauce that started the slide into desperation and hot sauce fear and hell that she ended up in was definitely a lot of fun.
Oh, it sounds like a lot of fun, and yes, to be able to witness that had to be, and to be, yeah, knowing that the bomb typically always wrecks everyone's overall expectations of what they're getting into. I mean, that's what it's there. It's there to grab your attention.
Yep.
But to be able to be, delivering great flavor and that nice heat is much more, in my opinion, much more enjoyable than just the shock and awe factor that the bomb can deliver. But that's just
Yeah.
me.
Yep. No, I think that they're their own thing, and I think they make it taste the way I think they make it intentionally taste a little unpleasant
Yeah.
on a because I've made some bad sauces over the years that never led to an official one, but nothing that tastes like the bomb. So I think they intentionally try to really alert every sense you have to be fearful.
Yeah, they hit you on all fronts. They get you both with the heat, the taste, and later you're questioning what just happened. So they gets that
Yeah.
nice little mental debacle going on in the head. That's for sure. But okay, okay. Well, I have a very fun game that it sounds like you might already know these answers with ease. So we'll go ahead and jump on over to that now.
All right.
All right, so here we go. We have, well, this is the second time that I've done this different iteration. I had one other one that is not quite the same true or false, but kind of. So ultimately, instead of keep five, cut five, there's going to be five of these phrases, headlines, if you will. Or some are headlines, some are facts of sharks in this case. So it's for you to decipher whether it's real or false. And if it's true, then, obviously we'll dive into each of these explanations if need be. But this should be pretty fun and right up your alley. So we'll see how this
All
one
right.
plays out for you. So up first. Well, we have bull sharks can survive in freshwater and have been found in rivers as far as 2,500 miles from the ocean. True or
That is
false?
true. Bull sharks are the only sharks that can be in fresh water. They're often found in brackish water. Brackish just means a mix of salt and fresh. So typically, when a river meets the ocean, that meeting point is a mix of salt and fresh. And a lot of times they'll be there. They can survive there, and for times their body can survive in fresh water for a certain amount of time, not for eternity. But yes, bull sharks can and have surprised some people.
Oh yeah. Well, I guess on that note, because I haven't ever thought about it until you were just explaining the mixture of the brackish water. Those videos that you see online that people like dig into a stream and or a river that's nearby and they dig it into a dump point into basically into the ocean at that point and it causes a bigger flow. Do you think that's obviously there's the erosion aspect, but detrimental to the sharks that might accidentally navigate back up those waters, or do you think that those get filled back in fast enough?
Probably to a small extent, but I can't say I know for certain.
Okay. All right. Just was curious as you were saying that, thinking like, okay, yeah, I do remember that they do make their way up into non-salt water. So, all right. So this next one here, in 2024, a great white shark was tagged with a tracker that showed it circled an entire continent in just 30 days. True
In
or
30
false?
days. I'm shocked that I don't know that story. It sounds like it could be true, but since I haven't heard it, I'll say false. But I could be wrong on that one.
That is a good answer there. That is false. And the rest of it says while great whites are known for long migrations, their circling entire continent in 30 days is impossible due to the speed and energy constraints. Tagging studies show that they have impressive journeys, but are not this extreme. So, all right, pretty cool. All right, next up, some shark species, like whale sharks, are filter feeders that consume plankton and small fish.
Oh yeah, as well as the basking shark,
All right,
which is
right
often
on.
mistaken for a great white. We get a lot of basking shark sightings over here on the New Hampshire coast, and everyone always posted about a great white. And 99% of the time it's a basking shark, but they are huge. They're bigger than great whites, but they are harmless beauties. I'd love to be in the ocean with one of them.
Oh, nice, nice. I've never. I'll have to look them up after this because I am not familiar with them. All right. Well, then the next one here, a 2025 study revealed that mako sharks can communicate using low frequency sound pulses over long distances.
Never heard that one, so we'll say false, but anything's possible.
Yeah, that was false. Whenever I was drafting up the date, I thought, probably shouldn't put 2025, but whatever. It's fine. Okay. So number 5 here is sharks have an accurate sense of hearing, detecting vibrations in the water from prey up to 800 feet away.
I think that's almost a trick question because it's not the hearing, it's the smell that they can tell from that far away. So I think I'm going to have to say false. They can, I mean, they can detect, a struggling fish from miles away, which is why you don't want to be splashing around and you definitely don't want to be bleeding, but it wouldn't be their ears that are detecting that.
Well, this one is what they had said was going to be a true one. So
Oh, all
this
right.
one says that sharks have excellent hearing, detecting the low frequency vibrations from their prey up to 800 feet away. And thanks to their lateral line system in their ears, it allows them to be able to pick that up. So
Well, you see,
interesting there.
if I went to University of Miami for that marine biology degree instead of what I ended up doing, I would have gotten that one right.
There we go. All right. Brief thing between this. Sharknado. Are you a fan of those movies?
I think they're hysterical. I mean, fan in that I watch them all the time. No, but I do get a kick in general out of all of the sci-fi movies. Sharktopus, Three-Headed Shark Attack, all of the. They're definitely entertaining. But
Absolutely.
you have to watch it for going into it knowing it's a comedy. As long as you go into it knowing that, you're good.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. All right. Next question here then. 2023, a rare albino tiger shark was photographed off the Great Barrier Reef.
Again, I'm going to have to say, since I've never heard of this albino tiger shark, that's something I feel like I would have heard of. There are albino sharks, never heard of an albino tiger shark. So I'm going to have to say false on that.
You got that one correct. That is false. There is no albino tiger shark that was photographed in 2023. And it says that it's very rare in marine animals. So while theoretically possible, there's no credible reports of it at this time. So cool. All right. Easy enough. Number 7, the cookie cutter shark takes small circular bites out of large marine animals, leaving distinctive wounds.
Yes, that is true.
All right. Spot on with that one. All right.
Funny mouth if you haven't seen it.
I saw looking them up after because I was like I tried to play this along as well, and I thought that was a fake name, a cookie cutter shark. So
No, yeah, it's a fun one.
yeah, all right, here we go. Another one. 2024 experiment showed that the reef sharks can be trained to recognize humans' faces for feeding purposes.
I'll have to say true because I've seen that on Tiger Beach with tiger sharks. So I would think if you can do that with tiger sharks, it's kind of like Pavlov's dogs in a sense. I don't know that study about reef sharks specifically, but I'll have to assume it could be done since I see it on Tiger Beach all the time.
So the answer that I was getting back was that while there's no official study showing that it's able to detect human faces, it is believed that sharks can learn the patterns and sense and recognize a consistent pattern. So interactions. So they were
Right.
saying that was false, but there's some level of truth to that. And so I guess because of the face recognition aspect is what they're saying is the thing that slightly twists that to be false. So
Well,
I guess that's a
I'm gonna
tricky
fight for
question.
partial credit with the principal.
Yep. There we go. I like it. All right. So the thrasher sharks,
Thresher.
there we go. Sharks use their long tails to stun prey, traveling whip-like strikes. So I guess
That is
delivering.
true, and it is super cool. One of our sharks, spicy sharks, is Thresher Shark. It's our chipotle sauce, and they are a funky looking shark. They got these huge eyes that are misshaped for the size of their heads, and they whip their prey, which is why it's always. I've never been in the ocean myself with a thresher, but I've seen people catch them, and you got to be careful because that tail whips around and that can absolutely knock you out and make you unconscious.
Man. Nope. That's even more reason for me to want to make sure that I'm only there with the right people to that know what they're doing, because knowing me, it would be
Well,
my
not too
luck.
many threshers in Fort Worth, so you're going to be okay.
Yeah, yeah. Good thing there's a lot of concrete around me. So slash not good thing, but that's a whole nother topic. All right. Well, and then, of course, because by process of elimination, the last one is false, but we'll go ahead and read it. In 2024, a species of deep sea sharks were discovered with eyes that emit ultraviolet light to attract prey.
That sounds like one of my new six fins that I haven't thought of yet. I like that.
That sounds very, very cool,
Very
and
sci-fi.
yeah,
Yeah.
I could easily see that as a nice sci-fi movie. So that was, well, true and false. That is the five keep five cut five version of true or
That
false.
was fun. All the trivia I've been given is always Jaws specific, so this was more shark knowledge of actual sharks in the ocean. So that was good.
So that's where I was trying to figure out. I already had half the game crafted with Jaws stuff, and I was like, man, everyone's gonna be hearing this by now. I was like, let's do something interesting. So
Well,
glad
it
that
is,
lined up.
if you didn't know, it is the Jaws 50th. So you gotta, if you haven't watched Jaws this year, it's the 50-year anniversary. We actually got to go down. We were a sponsor of it down on Martha's Vineyard in June. And I don't know if you know, but I have a replica 75 Chevy Blazer that's identical to Chief Brody's from the movie. So I was able to
Very
drive it down
nice.
there. We had Richard Dreyfuss in the car. It was the best. So you do have to watch Jaws this year to celebrate if you haven't yet.
Very nice, very nice. Those Blazers are a lot of fun. My grandmother actually had one early, whenever I was like real little, and it had the jump seat in the back, and that was like some of my favorite memories. Was just
Oh
you
yeah.
riding in the jump seat. I always thought it was so cool. So
My daughter loves it when we take them out. So a little bit tougher now as it's getting colder, but well, we have a couple more rides left before the winter.
absolutely. Well, now that was obviously the game, but now is the nugget of knowledge. This is greatly beneficial. Let's gear it towards those individuals that are, just getting out there. They're wanting to start making their own sauce. They're wanting to make their own product, whatever it may be. What would be your worded advice to those individuals just starting out?
Well, number one, test it out. Make sure that it's not just you who thinks it's great, that other people like it too before you're going to invest too much money into it. I mean, if you're independently wealthy and it's just a hobby for fun, you don't have to worry about that. But make sure, do some kind of, I don't know if it needs to be an official focus group here, but do some due diligence with sampling it out and getting feedback from people. And then if you do decide you're going to go for it, what a mistake I see a lot of people make is trying to be everywhere and not really focusing on their home. And I feel that the only way to really build any brand is to really get very well known in your community. So, start with all of your local markets, try to get in there and sampling, but get a real local following. And then the other thing I would say is if you're able to do it, like if this is something where you might want this to be your primary job or your only job, I still actually have two other jobs. I wish Spicy Shark paid all my bills, and it is my company and my baby, and I put full-time hours into it, but I do have two other jobs too. Is if you're able to price it where you can sell it at a wholesale price so that you have the ability to get into stores. Obviously you're going to be selling it at a lower amount to the stores, and they're going to ideally be selling it at the price that you sell it at when you're at a farmer's market. So from a pricing perspective, you can have a wholesale business, and then really don't worry so much about all big events everywhere. Really build a home market and let the kind of the buzz start about your brand get to be known, and then if you do it the right way, you'll have stores actually approach you, and that's always a lot of fun. And then maybe you can get into the distributor world of things. But I would say start very very slow and hobby at first versus anything else.
Very well said. Well, This next part here is the hot seat nomination. This is someone that you think would make a great guest for the show.
Oh, geez. Well, have you had my man Ed Curry on yet?
I have not.
Well, I would absolutely get him on the show, and he'd be talking all about Pepper X, which is pretty wild. It's crazy what he did with that.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Well, thank you for that nomination, and I'll be reaching out. We'll have time to have Ed come on the podcast, and look forward to that. Now, this last part here, this is greatly beneficial for those that are just audio only listening on Apple Podcasts. So where can they find you, and then any kind of announcements that you want to make?
Sure thing. Well, you can find us always on our website, thespicyshark.com, and we are on Amazon, so you can purchase us on Amazon. Other than that, outside of the Northeast, we're in a bunch of stores, but they're really like random specialty stores here and there. So if you're in the Northeast, you can find our sauces at Whole Foods. That's the only grocery we're in. Other than that, we really live in mom and pop specialty grocery, specialty meat markets, fish markets, gift stores, stuff like that. But you could always find us on our website and Amazon. Announcement really is our big event that we started 4 years ago is the New England Hot Sauce Fest. We haven't announced next year's date yet, but we will be announcing it next month. So follow us at New England Hot Sauce Fest, or you could look newenglandhotsaucefest.com. But it's always in the summer, and it's always at Smutty Nose Brewery in Hampton, New Hampshire, and it's become a big deal. It's a really great festival in New England, family friendly, pet friendly, outdoors. We have hot pepper eating contests. A good amount of vomit from the contestants, which is fantastic. And actually, speaking of Ed, he flies up. All the peppers we use are from his garden in South Carolina, which is pretty cool. And we have Bella and Dark from Heat 101 as our MCs, and it's become a really, really cool, fun event. So I'd love you guys to come support that.
Gabe, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on. I would love to dive back in. There's still so much more we can discuss, so I would love to have you back on the podcast.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the time, and hope we get to meet in person sometime soon, maybe in Albuquerque.
Gabe, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It has been an absolute pleasure. If you would like to keep up with the Spicy Shark, I will have the direct links down below for all the ways that you can keep up with the Spicy Shark, socials, website, products that were featured here on Hot or Not. I highly recommend checking those out. Also wanted to say thank you so much for those that have just recently found the podcast, all the way to those that have been rocking and rolling since day one. Thank y'all so much for everything that y'all do. Continue to share this out with other like-minded chili heads or individuals that are curious about the world of hot, because this is where you can find everything to do with the world of hot. As well as if you're on a podcast platform that allows for a rating of the podcast, go ahead, please hit that with a 5-star rating. Helps us get in front of the algorithm and in front of the right people. Also, have sponsorship opportunities available. So if you're looking to sponsor the podcast, reach out via the website on theswearword.net or on socials, and we'll get that ball started there. Quick shout out for our current sponsors, podvision.io. If you're looking to grow your brand, start your brand, if you hit a bump in the road, you're trying to figure things out, highly recommend checking out podvision.io for all those needs, as well as webdx.one. Maybe you have an online site. Maybe you had a guy at one point, you lost contact with them. Highly recommend checking out webdx.one. Best of all, you get to focus on what you do best, and they get you looking great online. I'm Brandon Swear, and from everything from the world of hot, this has been The Swear Word.